What's going on, family? Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuff series. Let's continue examining 100 years of World Championship fights. Now, February 5th, 1943, Jake LaMotta defeats Ray Robinson, 10 rounds in Detroit, in front of 18,930 spectators. As the promoter, Nick London's, at the Detroit's Olympian Stadium, sold out the tickets, as fans would witness. A Hall of Fame prospect being upset by the Bronx Bull. Now, LaMotta already had over 7 losses. Ray Robinson was 40-0 coming into his fight. And Ray Robinson was knocked out of the ring. LaMotta was just too strong. It was light heavyweight 1939's Diamond Gloves as an amateur. Ray Robinson was a featherweight in 1939 in the New York Golden Gloves. And their body mass was completely different size and strength. Now, Robinson had already defeated LaMotta in 1942. Tough task it was. But LaMotta would not be denied. He would make sure that he would get that victory. But 3 weeks later, February 16th, 1943, Ray Robinson would defeat Jake LaMotta. 10 rounds in Detroit. Same arena, same referee. And after Ray Robinson would defeat California Jackie Wilson 2 weeks later, in between the first and second fight of 1943 of LaMotta and Ray Robinson. That would be a ring classic, as both men would give it everything they had. Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta would meet each other 6 times between 1942 and 1951. But on this night, Ray Robinson would not be denied. He would win 5 out of 6 fights between those two men. Jake LaMotta was just a very underrated defensive fighter. He would crouch low and throw with punches with either hand. He was a tremendous body puncher. He can crush your ribs with one blow. Ray Robinson, Jake LaMotta. 2 unbelievable fighters. Now let's take a look. Ray Robinson down, but beats Jake. Detroit, February 26. Ray Robinson, or Sugar Ray Robinson of New York, avenges the only defeat of his 132 fight career by getting up because he was dropped by Jake LaMotta from the floor to outpoint tough Jake LaMotta of the Bronx, New York. 10 rounds. Now this bout took place at the Olympia Stadium in Chicago. And Ray gave up 15 3/4 pounds to Jake LaMotta, who weighed 160 3/4 pounds. Now Ray was a private at that time. They were in the war. But these two men were something else. They would fight, like I said once before, 6 times. Finally, the 7th, LaMotta caught Sugar Ray in his own corner with a left to the face. The Harlem Jitterbug went down and stayed there for 8. It lasted out the round. Unanimous decision. Ray Robinson received a unanimous decision of referee Sam Hennessy and the 2 judges, but overflowed the crowd of 15,149 spectators, which paid $60,710 to see the scrap. Let's take a look at another article. Ray down and defeats LaMotta. Detroit, February 26. Ray Sugar Robinson tonight erases the only blotch of his record by winning a unanimous decision, over Jake LaMotta at the end of 10 rounds at the Olympia Stadium. It was the 3rd meeting between fighters 3 weeks ago, Lamotta defeated Robinson here on the stretch of the late rush. Now, they fought at the same arena with the same referee refereeing their bout. This is amazing. It was the second time in his career that Ray was on the floor. Lamotta had him. He had him there last night. The record indoor gate was $60,710.50. Was paid by 15,149 spectators. It was a return go. 3 weeks from their second fight. Now, in between, Ray Robinson's loss to Jake LaMotta in 43, and in his third fight with LaMotta in 43, they fought 6 weeks apart. I'm sorry, they fought 3 weeks apart. Ray Robinson fought Jake LaMotta 3 weeks apart in 1943, and in between that time, he would be in the ring with Johnny Wilson. Johnny Wilson was floored, and he was defeated by Ray Robinson. And it was really amazing because it was 1 week before Ray would face Jake LaMotta the third time. And it was the second time when Ray Robinson would have a problem with Jake LaMotta. He would lose to Jake LaMotta, the record of 40-0. He already defeated him in 1942. So when he fought him in 1943 for the second time, he would lose to Jake LaMotta with a record of 40-0, and then he would face Jackie Wilson 1 week after that. And then a week after that is when he would meet Jake LaMotta for the third time. Ray tags Wilson early in the fourth with a short right uppercut. Caught him in the chin and sent Jackie back on his heels. Harlem Night followed up with a volley of lefts and rights to the body and head, sent Wilson throttling. Basically, it's saying to the canvas. Remarkable. Now, I have lots of articles on this, but this is the last one I'll show you. Robbie defeats Wilson, floors Soldier in the fourth round. February 19th, 1943. And I just want to give you somewhat of an idea of how these men fought at that time. The Garden was 16,336 fans. And they paid $47,683. This is the young Ray Robinson that we're looking at here. He can do combinations going backwards. 5 to 6 punch combinations in less than 2 seconds. He was a remarkable fighter. Now here you have a young Ray Robinson. And he gets it on with Jackie Wilson, the former Olympic star, New California outstanding lightweight. Uses his ring earnings to study painting. Seeks Armstrong welterweight's crown. But he would be in the ring with Ray Robinson. This is Jackie Wilson. Call him California Jackie Wilson. Some fight that was. He'd be stopped in the fourth round by Ray Robinson. Beautiful combination Robinson would throw. And this would be in between the fight between Ray Robinson and LaMotta, their second fight in 43. 1 week later, Robinson would meet it up with Jackie Wilson. And then a week after that, he would fight Jake LaMotta for the third time in a rematch. And he would regain his undefeated streak with Jake LaMotta. Amazing. Now, Henry Armstrong would lose to Beau April 2nd, 1943. And it would be somewhat of the last opportunity that Henry Armstrong would have with an established opponent. Sidney Walker, better known as Beau. After being trained by Henry Armstrong, Armstrong would show him every trick of the trade he knew for his style of fighting. Beau would face him New York's Madison Square Garden, and he would defeat him. And the passing of the torch with Ray Robinson wasn't enough. It would finalize it with Beau with 21 main event fights, New York's Madison Square Garden. Two of my top fighters of all time. Now, Hank's furious rally fails as Jack wins. 19,986 sees the bout. April 2nd, 1943. It was like seeing double. This was at the Garden last night, and you can hardly tell them apart. Henry Armstrong, a somewhat faded carbon copy of his one-time great self. And Beau, a reasonable facsimile of an original hammer in Henry Armstrong. 10 rounds. $104,976. The Garden booed. Very long sound. Bill Kavanaugh gave Armstrong the best break. And it was just a very sad moment, once again, in New York's Madison Square Garden. But Beau wouldn't disappoint the fans because he would put up some fights. Fighters such as Juan Zarita and Ike Williams still to come. Now, the preliminaries that night, you had Terry Young. He was from New Jersey. 137 pounds. Won an 8-round decision over Ellis Phillips. On October 25th, 1943, Bob Montgomery stops Petey Scalzo. Petey down 3 times. Referee halts the fight. And here you have Petey Scalzo. It was a good victory from Bob Montgomery. Still a force to be reckoned with. I just want to show you Rocky Graziano wins bout by knocking out Hal Green, September 28th, 1945. We hadn't gotten to that fight yet, but I just wanted to show you while I had this book out. Hal Green and Rocky Graziano would face one another 3 times. And Graziano would lose twice. Graziano would defeat him twice. The year's largest crowd are selling out 18,592 spectators. They paid the biggest gate of that year, $103,970. Amazing. And this is at Madison Square Garden. All the fights I'm showing you here were at the Garden. And in this book, I should say. Referee was Ruby Goldstein. He completed the count of 10. And Green jumped up to his feet, yelling that Rocky had hit him illegally. Said he hit him on a break. Fight was over. Rocky's corner, Irving Cohen and Whitey Bimsteins, Rocky's co-manager and trainer, saw him coming, threw themselves before the Rocky. By this time, Soul Gold Green manager Freddie Brown and his trainer, Charles Duke, his second, had followed Green across the ring and joined in, shoving and pushing. And it was a riot in that garden that night, because Rocky Graziano and Howard Green knew each other since they were young boys. They went to school together. Howard Green lived in Bronzeville, Brooklyn. He was a street guy, as well as Rocky, and they didn't get along. And they would have real street fights. Had nothing to do with boxing. More to do with territory than anything else. So it was a neighborhood rivalry, is what it actually was. I just wanted to show you an article of this fight between Rocky Graziano and Howard Green.